This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 115 of the Dressage Radio Show, brought to you with the generous support of Charles Owen, Equestrian Collections, and Horseshow.com. I'm Chris Stafford, and on the show this week is my new co-host, JJ Tate, and I got to spend time with JJ at the North America Junior Young Rider Championships this past week. JJ, have you recovered?
Yes, I'm getting there. It's always not so easy after a week of not riding and watching everyone ride all week, but my horses were in good shape when I got home, so my body is slowly recovering from the shock of riding 10 horses yesterday.
Getting back in the tack. And now tell everybody what you were doing. You were coaching, weren't you, at Young Riders? Tell everybody about that.
Yep, I've been coaching Katie Foster and her chestnut horse named Sacramento. I've been coaching her since she was about 11, and she's 20 this year. So we've gone up the ranks to the juniors and now into the Young Riders. And it's just really exciting to see, her really mature into a nice rider. And it's been just a fun program. I did the Young Riders, and I just supported 100%. I just think it's a great program for all the different disciplines that we do. I just can't support the program and say enough great things about it.
It really is a wonderful program, and, so many rising stars in all those sports. Of course, it's not just dressage, but eventing and jumping and endurance and reining, and I think they're going to add vaulting next year. So it is a multi-dimensional, almost like a mini World Equestrian Games for young riders, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and have been to the Kentucky Horse Track for the WEG. It was fun to sort of be back there with the same, types of rules and regulations, and it's just great to be able to give these young up and coming competitors that same type of experience, that they can just get used to that type of venue, those type of rules, being able to thank the sponsors when they see them, and the press conferences and all that. It's just, there's so much more that goes into it than just riding down centerline, which is difficult enough. But it's, we had a really tough week with the heat. We had a lot of horses that had to get fluids, and, just all that stuff in the background, in the stable area with the, the vet process, all that. It's just so great for them to be able to learn those things so early and just have that be part of their sport as well.
And it is a great education for the young riders too, because we often talk about how important it is for them to spend barn time, JJ, to actually just roll their sleeves up, metaphorically speaking. They didn't need any sleeves last week in the horse bar. but just to get down and feel the horse's legs, to understand what's going on in the barn at all times. And the eventers, of course, are famous for that. I mean, they're meticulous. But the dressage kids, that's just as important for them to learn every aspect of horse management, isn't it?
Absolutely. I just can't say enough about, managing your horse and being in the barn and being the advocate of your horse's well-being, talking to the vets. I just think it's great to see these kids, because eventually one day they're going to run their own barns and their own training facilities and their programs. And they got to have that education right away from the beginning of, what looks good on the legs, how to prevent, injuries and just all those things that, getting dirty in the barn, so to say. It's like you've got to be just in it, totally in it, 100%, not just the riding part, because that's only makes up a very small part of it.
It certainly does. Well, we're going to hear a lot more about what happened at the Adequan North America Junior Young Rider Championships presented by Gotham Nook. We should put a shout out there for, of course, the sponsors and Georgina Bloomberg's company there, Georgina's a regular contributor to the Jumping Radio Show, and how important those sponsors are. And Isabelle Leibler, who was, of course, the gold medalist in the Young Riders, a fantastic competition for her. She's going to be our young reporter later on in the show. So that's coming up. I'm looking forward to that. And also Alice Collins is going to report from on British Dressage. He, of course, is the dressage editor from Horse and Hound, one of our affiliates over there in the UK. And we're also going to have a new segment we're starting this week, and that's the US Dressage Federation News. Each month they're going to be coming on the show for 10 minutes to tell us what's happening with the US Dressage Federation. And starting off that segment this week is Jeremy Steinberg. And then we also have a promotion for you about a new show that we've launched here on the Horse Radio Network. So all that to come later on in the show. And JJ, I know that you were busy, obviously, with the dressage, but I noticed that a lot of these young people are also taking the opportunity when they're at Young Riders to watch the other sports. There are the other disciplines that they don't get to see too often, too.
Yeah, I would definitely say I heard so much back in the barn about all the reining. And so I think that that's just been really fun, especially for, all the dressage people. We just don't get to see that kind of riding and training and, that much fun in the sport. And so I think, to really sort of change things up, a lot of them were taking their golf carts down to the indoor. And I don't think it was because it was air conditioning only. I think they, did really want to, share in the sport. And I think it's great for reining that, they were included into the WEG and everyone came away loving reining, from there. So I'm really excited for that sport to also get, more attention. And even the kids, all my dressage girls were, getting in their golf carts and driving down there to go watch the reining. And, I think it was a little bit of a shame that the eventing dressage was not in the main stadium, although the Kentucky Horse Park is so fantastic because it has so many different venues and so many different arenas. But sometimes it becomes a little too big, and, we kind of didn't get a chance to be able to see enough of the eventing dressage because it was down by the track. So that I thought was a little bit of a shame that they didn't get to be in the stadium and have that same kind of exciting environment that the dressage and the show jumping did. But I think it's terrific that they're going to start, trying to get the vaulting in there. I just think that what a great sport for kids, and even if you don't go on to go to the Olympics in vaulting, like that awesome balance that you learn from that and flexibility, I just think that that's really something that will be great to have as an up-and-coming sport for the young riders as well.
Did you ever have a go at that yourself, JJ?
No, I did not. I am not the most... We were laughing about that, actually. I don't even think there's any way. I think the best I could do is maybe jump on. And that's just because I'm tall.
Yeah, it certainly does teach you some gymnastics and to be very agile. And it is like the gymnastics, the normal gymnastics, that usually are smaller people, have not too heavy either. To be jumping up and down 2 or 3 high on top of a horse. I did have a go at it in my very youthful youth, but it's good to have a go at each of these things. But I think there's a lot of dressage people, as you know, that won't ever jump, and there's a lot of jumpers that wouldn't do anything else but jump. They wouldn't dream of doing any other discipline. It's interesting, isn't it, how, you find your own way and don't have a go at anything else.
Yeah, it is. But I tell you, we put cavalettis out and I felt the same way at first. I'm getting more comfortable with it. But, we always laugh about, like, oh, my God, we put the cavalettis up for canter. And it's like, oh, my God, it's like I'm jumping. And it's like, oh, it's so sad. But so one year down in Florida, I actually had my bar manager, Amy Boyer, teach me some jump lessons because I'm like, I haven't done this since I was a kid. And I just feel like I want to open my mind a little bit about it because I think, true horsemanship and good riding is evident in all sports. And so it's sometimes just fun to kind of open your mind and experience something a little bit new. But I definitely think vaulting is probably not on my list because I'll pull something.
not this week. And I did learn that you are planning to get married, so we wouldn't want any injuries before the wedding.
That's true. That's true. I can't be limping down the aisle, that's for sure.
No, most definitely not. Play it safe for a while at least, JJ. All right. Well, we're going to get a report from our friends over at Horse and Hound in just a second. But first of all, I want to remind you about one of our valued sponsors here on the Dressage Radio Show, and that, of course, is Charles Owen. And they not only do helmets, but they also have a range of gloves, too. And one of those is the Ruckle Chester, which is a lightweight, close-fitting glove made from Vesta synthetic leather. They provide a sensitive feel on the reins coupled with an excellent grip, and the material is fast dyed, which makes it, of course, machine washable. The Röckel tab fastener across the back of the hand adjusts for a snug individual fit. And the Röckel Chester is available in white, ivory, black, navy, brown, green and caramel. And the Röckel new Ascot glove is another stylish synthetic leather glove made from PK200 that comes with rain reinforcements and an elasticated wristband, plus a hook and loop fastening tab for adjustability. The back of the glove is breathable, which prevents the buildup of sweat. It's practical and hard-wearing, making it ideal for everyday use. In black and brown, the sizes available there are 5 till 9.5, and white in sizes 6 to 10.5. You can check out the gloves and the helmets and all of the other Charles Owen products by visiting their website at charlesowen.co.uk. Well, as I said, our regular contributor here from Horse and Hound, one of our affiliates in the UK, popular magazine there, is Alice Collins. She reports on British dressage here from time to time, and she did a roundup with the July competitions that affected all the British dressage riders, and not only in England but also in Europe, and I was able to catch up with her the other day, so let's hear what she has to say about the state of British dressage. Well, Alice, welcome back to the show. Lovely to have our Horse and Hound contributions on all things dressage here. How have you been since we last spoke?
Yes, very well, thank you. We've been very busy on the British dressage front. Lots of interesting things to report.
Yes, you know, as we said last time, you know, it really heats up with, not least of all, because obviously the Olympics too, a lot of focus on that, and I'm sure expectations too. But I wanted to begin, we want to talk about how the British riders are faring, but also a review, if you would, since we're now into August, of the July competitions, the highlights, of course. Aachen's the big one, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely. And was the big selection ahead of the announcement for the team for the Euros, which we still haven't had at the moment.
Apologies to all our listeners in Europe, because I thought of Olympics, but of course you've got the big Europeans first.
Yes, we have. And so Aachen was sort of thought of as the final test before the selection for the Euros. And Laura Bettelsteimer still managed a score above 80%. In the freestyle, but unfortunately that was only good for fourth place because the standard now across the world is so high. And your very own Stefan Peters was also another fantastic horse that showed really well. But yes, Laura said she'd put too much pressure on herself, and she had small mistakes in the Kerr, and they just didn't quite present the flowing picture that they can, her and her horse Mistral Horace. So I think she was a bit disappointed, although, I mean, I'm over the moon that we can have a rider scoring 80% and being disappointed in the UK.
I mean, that just right there is extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, as you say, that is, you know, that's worthy of a story in itself, isn't it?
Absolutely. And of course, one of the highlights for Aachen, although obviously he doesn't have the British flag, was Totalas, because he left with 3 gold medals under his new rider, Matthias Rath, having picked up €43,000 in prize money on the way.
Yeah, they've got off to a great start, haven't they? I mean, there's so much pressure on them.
They had some teething problems to start with, but every time we see them in competition now, they're looking more and more cemented as a partnership. I think they'll go far, and he's clearly enjoying getting to know the horse, and the horse is a real trier and wants to perform for anybody who's riding him. But, of course, as you know, it takes a long time to build up that partnership to make it perfect.
Yes, I'm sure he will continue to fine-tune their partnership, and, you know, it's still exciting. You know, he's still up there, you know, attracting such an audience. I mean, fans all over the world. I mean, you know, he'll soon have his own TV show, that horse.
I wouldn't be surprised.
So apart from Aachen, then, what else happened in the UK in July?
We've also had the Hartbury Festival of Dressage, which includes the CDI and the Premier League and the Young Horse Championships. And it really did turn into the Michael Eilberg show in the best possible way. He won 8 classes at the show, and his sister won 1, so that was 9 for the Eilbergs. But the real story of that show has to be Woodlander Farouche, who dominated the young horse classes. She once again won and repeated the feat from last year. And since then, actually, last week, she also won the Badminton Young Horse Championships, which is a class for mixed 4- and 5-year-olds. She's the only horse in the history of the whole thing to win it as a 4-year-old and come back and defend her title successfully as a 5-year-old and take it back to back. She's really, really something special, and we'll be heading to Verdun at the beginning of August.
Oh, for the Young Horse Championships. That's exciting.
Yes, and we've got 2 qualified this year. We've also got China Boy, who's by Chico's Boy, who's owned by Ulrich Molgaard and his rider Henrietta Anderson. So, yeah, we'll be really excited to keep our eyes on Verdun next month.
Do you get to go there, Alice?
Unfortunately not this year, but I'll be certainly aiming for it next year.
Yeah, that's obviously such a prestigious and important competition. I mean, on both sides of the pond and around the world, because the breeding of these horses. Go ahead.
Michael described it as the Olympics for young horses, and I really think that that's accurate.
Well, it rather does for the dressage as the young horse, the Burley Young Event Horse has done for eventing, isn't it? I mean, it is the proving ground for these young horses. Yes,
absolutely. It's a big test for them, but Farouche seems to be able to take anything you throw at her.
So she's a star. She's a star in England, and she's going to get her own TV show too in England, is she?
I hope so. She's actually not just been a star in England, but she went to France this year and won 2 5-year-old championships over there as well. So it's not just us that think she's great.
So some ammunition there in England, getting ahead of these major championships to come. And so Michael obviously has a terrific stable of horses too. I mean,
he also rides Farouche's mother, Woodlander Dawn Roshan, and he took 2 classes at Hartbury on her with 71 and 73%. She is an absolutely beautiful mare, long legs, pretty face, and looks like she really, really wants to do the job. The judges always say it's a pleasure, but they wish that they could ride her instead. That's the only frustration of marking her. Yeah, and he's also got another mare called Half Moon Delphi, who's also by DiMaggio, who came out at Inter 2 at Hartbury, and he took 2 classes on her, and she's a lovely, lovely horse, and I think that she'll go far. He thinks that she has the makings for a Grand Prix horse. So yes, he's got a fantastic stable at the moment.
Well, we'll have to get Michael here on the show. His dad's been on, and his sister, but I think it's time that we got Michael on to hear all about these fantastic horses that he's riding now.
I'm sure he'd be delighted.
And so Hartbury, of course, is a big competition for you. It's a festival, and Hartbury really has got itself on the map in so many ways, isn't it? Now, what sort of, obviously, attendees would they have, and entries would they have for that competition? Have you any idea of the scale of it? I mean, just to put it in perspective with European shows.
Well, I was there, and it certainly felt like an international show. Sort of flags, shopping, bar, all the ingredients were there, and good entries, really, really high-quality competition. There was also the Paras, who were indoors at the same time as the other show goes on outdoors. And like I mentioned, the Young Horse Championships, and that's in 3 age categories, 4, 5, and 6-year-olds, and they're called the Shearwater National Championships. We also have international, but the final for those is at the National Championships in September. So in the 6-year-old section, the winner of that was Rebecca Hughes with Classic Annette Ballerina, who's a 6-year-old she bought from Holland last year from the Elite Auction. And Becky Moody took the 4-year-old class on a horse called Corinthio. And, we're so excited about the strength and the depth that we have in the young horses at the moment in this country. We have really, really exciting prospects.
Certainly do. A force to be reckoned with. And when you mention Shearwater as sponsors there, we should put a shout out for Jeremy Lawton of Shearwater Insurance, who's been such a great supporter of both eventing and dressage in the UK, and an old friend of mine too. So I think, those sponsors make all the difference. And we see Hexted and what a terrific family of sponsors that they've got there too. That is what is lifting the game of dressage in the UK, isn't it? Yeah. It really is. Now, what else is happening on your in your corner, on your island?
Well, we're looking ahead to Hixted now, which is actually getting underway at the moment this week. We had the Hixted semi-finals. Hixted runs its own league called the Hixted Dressage Masters, and the semi-finals, the person who stuck out was Leah Beckett with her horse Al Martino. And so she'll be contesting him at the finals this week. And what they do at Hixted is they run 3 days of Hixted Dressage Masters before the main show, which starts at the end of this week. And that's the CDI, so we're all looking forward to seeing Adelinda and lots of top names coming to Hickstead this week.
We don't even have to use their last names anymore, do we? But, we should also put a shout out for Dane Rawlings, of course, who's been such a terrific force behind dressage at Hickstead, hasn't he?
Yes, absolutely. I saw him at the Olympic test event, and he was very excited about this year's show, and he's always trying to make it bigger and better and taking elements from European shows to try and just raise his game every year, and we're very appreciative of that.
And we should then obviously segue nicely here into the Olympic test event there down at Greenwich, which took place just recently in early July. Tell us about that and the venue there for the dressage. We heard a lot about the eventing from your colleague Pippa Room, of course, on the eventing radio show. How did it go for the dressage?
Well, I must admit I arrived as a Greenwich skeptic. There have been some debates, let's say, about whether to use Greenwich or not, but having been against it, I visited it for the first time and have to say I was blown away. It's a phenomenal backdrop. It's a beautiful place, and to have equestrianism within the heart of the Games is going to be so valuable to us, especially moving forward. Every sport needs to fight for its place on the Olympic roster, and I think that London's really going to help to keep equestrianism on the map in that respect. And what we had there in terms of dressage was not a competition. It was more a talk and an explanation about how the format's going to work, how many people per team, which is going to be 3 per team, and 1 person can ride as an individual, so potentially 4 people from any nation. And we saw demonstrations from some lovely dressage horses riding through the various Grand Prix, the Grand Prix specials. And one of note, who unfortunately does not ride under the British flag, is Anders Dahl, who's based over here. And he has a beautiful horse called Bukowski, who has not been at Grand Prix for very long, but has all the makings of a top international horse. It's absolutely gorgeous.
And tell us about the footing for the dressage there. Presumably it's all in the same arena as the jumpers and the eventers. Will it be any different for the dressage?
No, it's going to be exactly the same arena, and I believe it's going to be even larger, the arena, than the one that they practiced on at the test event. But the dressage riders didn't have a problem with the footing. I think it was the show jumpers who really found issue with that, because the dressage riders all said it was a fantastic surface to ride on. So I suppose that's going to be one for the manufacturers to battle out.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like, that the whole Greenwich experience was only positive all round, except for the show jumpers. You say they have a little bit of issue with the footing, but certainly the setting, it seems to be absolutely ideal.
But this is what a test event is for. If everything were perfect, then great, but the whole point of running a test event is that if there are any snags, then you've got time and a way of sorting them out. So that mustn't be overlooked.
Absolutely, it is a test in every way. Well, terrific. Now, what else in store for you then, Alice? And apart from Hickstead, and we will catch up with you and get a report on that later this month. I hope you'll come back and tell us how that went, because that is one of your biggest shows of the year, isn't it? Of course.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we're also now coming into regionals season. So in the UK, what happens is we have affiliated shows all around the country, and through those affiliated shows, you can qualify for the regional championships. And then it's via the regional championships that you can qualify for the national championships. And we are now just coming up into summer regional territory. They're just about to start at the beginning of August. So it's going to be quite frantic regional after regional for the next few weeks until the nationals, which come in September.
And where are they held?
At Stoneleigh in Warwickshire.
In Warwickshire.
There's a big park up there, and they're held there every year. They're sponsored by Dressage Deluxe.
Terrific. All right. Well, of course, you can read all about these competitions at Horse and Hound. We'll put a link to Horse and Hound on our show notes, as always, and also how you can subscribe to Horse and Hound. It's a must-read. And Alice, you're responsible for penning all the lines when it comes to dressage, aren't you?
A lot of them, yeah.
A lot of them. All right. Well, I'm sure you're going to be keeping busy. Thank you very much for these updates. We'll catch up with you again in a few weeks' time when you'll have more news of Hickstead and other dressage from the UK.
Thank you very much.
Well, JJ, British dressage, it never ceases to amaze me, the growth of British dressage. I mean, they're really becoming a force to be reckoned with. Look what happened at Hickstead last week with Carl Hester. They've now announced their team for the European Championships. Does it surprise you? I mean, because you've been over here watching them, and I know you've spent time in Europe too.
I just think it's so exciting for other countries to be able to sort of come up against the dominance of the Germans and the Dutch. It's so exciting to see, these top English people that, everyone has spent time in Europe and trained there. And so it is very similar in the systems. But it's just exciting to see, the English dressage just really explode and really become on the top of the sport. It's really great.
It really is, and I'm going to put a link to the Hickstead results, of course, from the Masters, where Adeline Cornelissen won with Parsifal. No surprises there, of course, up in the 80s. She beating Carl Hester, and also the team has included two newbies on the team for the European Championships. I'll put a link to all of that, not least of all, Emil Fowry, and Emil has not yet been on the Dressage radio show, so we're going to have to talk to him soon, maybe after the European Championship. So that's going to be very competitive this year, isn't it? The Europeans out over there in Rotterdam. Don't you wish you were going, JJ?
Oh, I absolutely do. I mean, I'm always sort of checking the calendar of like, when would it work to get over there to see this? Because it's just great. I mean, we've got interesting riders from all sorts of different countries, and it's not just the top few from Germany or the top few in Holland, and it's just great to see top riders and top horses really at such a high level in the world right now. I mean, with Stefan in there, and now, Great Britain is really coming up, and, Patrick Kittel, there's all these really top riders from all kinds of different places, and it really makes for, exciting, different results, which is exactly what our sport needs, because nobody wants to come to the horse show and know who's already going to win when they look at the start list. So I just think it's great for our sport that it's starting to make a little bit of a shift, that there's top horses in all different countries, ridden by people that are just able to bring this wonderful talent out of these horses. It's just great to see. I'm just really thrilled about that. And I just wish I could get over there more often to see this in person. It's hard just watching on the internet.
Yeah, it is. But, we know how good these other rising countries are getting. And as you say, it opens up the sport globally. And interestingly, we have a huge listenership in Australia. The second largest audience here on the Dressage Radio Show is in Australia. And those regular listeners will know that we often have Brett Parbury on and other Australian roads. Brett is a regular co-host when he's in one place long enough for us to do the show, because he travels back from Australia back and forth to Europe, where he has his horses and he's been competing this summer. And very, very popular co-host he is. And it's very encouraging to see how the growth of Australian dressage and New Zealand, but particularly in Australia, has just emerged in recent years. And as you know, JJ, you watch these countries, they only have to have one or two really good results, and somebody just stepping up, getting closer, like Brett did at the World Games, with a fantastic finish there, of course. And it really raises the bar. And, the demand then is on for them to go around the country giving clinics. So it's hard for them. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
And
it's just,
go ahead.
Go ahead. It's just so great, that we know Brett hasn't come out of nowhere. We've seen him. I remember when I was in Europe, watching him compete at the big shows, and it was just so fun to really... it always seems kind of funny in this sport that someone's like an overnight sensation, and it's sort of like, someone who's been working for 20 years becomes this overnight sensation. But it's just so rewarding to see riders that have worked so hard and been climbing up the ladder, and then they just finally get some great results at a top show, and the sport just explodes with, especially somewhere like Australia. It's just exciting for them to be in the sport, and talk about a commute back and forth. That's a long way, but it's just so fun to see it finally, that the sport is becoming such higher level of riding all the way around, and it's great for the world and the sport.
It certainly is. And, I'm mentioning the British team just now there, and I should have mentioned, of course, Charlotte Desjardins, who is based with Carl Hester. Now, there's a name that not many people around the world might have heard too often. She's made it onto the team for the European Championships. obviously not somebody who's been on the team before, and I mean she's just made a meteoric rise. Really, I mean she was third at Hickstead recently with the 78, I believe it was, and we've heard of Emma Hindle, we've heard of Carl Hester, we've heard of Laura Bechtelsheimer. Of course, she's the other member of the team, but Charlotte is going to be someone new to everybody, and we want to wish her the best of luck. I have to get her on the show before much longer, and maybe after the Europeans, along with Carl. And she is a pupil of Carl, and as you said, you're talking about these people just don't appear overnight. They may just come into the limelight relatively overnight, or it's perceived to be, but she has made a meteoric rise, and it is exciting. New stars to the sport.
And I think what's so special, I was reading in the Chronicle, I thought what was so special about that story is that she's been riding with Carl, and, he was really forward and to say that, he was given a chance one time in his life, and now he wants to sort of pass that same opportunity on to somebody talent that he knows has worked hard and, has worked with him. And I just thought that was really special that, here's a top rider himself sort of mentoring and bringing along another top rider who just deserved an opportunity. And it was just great to see her succeed and really, take the bull by the horns in this situation and just really go for it and be successful. And it's just great that there's such camaraderie there. I just thought that was really special.
It's good sportsmanship, isn't it?
Yeah, and good for the sport. It's good for their country. And someone to be, not real selfish about, Carl's fantastic. And, he's had lots of terrific success. And for him to be able to sort of pass it on to an up-and-comer, I just thought that was really terrific and just great for just the energy of the whole team, for them. I just thought that was real great.
Yeah, and it's got to be thrilling for Charlotte, of course, to make it onto the team for the first time. The European Championships in Rotterdam coming up in very shortly, and they've got obviously a very competitive team there with Carl and with Emile, and not least of all, of course, with Laura, who has everybody's darling and probably one of the favourites to take on the Dutch and the Germans. So it's really, really exciting for British dressage. And as an expat, I wish them well. Since it's the Europeans, I can wish them the best of luck. If it was the Worlds or the Olympics, it'd have to be sprinkled with the dual loyalty, I should say.
For sure.
All right, well, that's great. We'll put a link, as I said, to what happened at Hickstead at the World Dressage Masters, and, of course, to British Dressage as well, so you can catch up with more news about British Dressage. And thanks again to Alice Collins from Horse and Hound. We look forward to their continuing reports here on the Dressage Radio Show. Well, we're also going to get another young reporter. Our first young reporter. I'm excited about this young reporter, as you know, JJ, and this new role I'm giving young people on all of my shows to report on their shows or events around the country, or indeed around the world. And I hope when you listen to Isabelle, you'll be inspired to write to me and tell me you want to come on and report about your show. So we're going to hear from Isabelle in just a second, but not before I remind you about one of our other valued sponsors here on the Dressage Radio Show, and that, of course, is Equestrian Collections. And if you're shopping for a young rider, Equestrian Collections gives you the best choice of riding apparel. They do equestrian footwear, themed gifts, riding helmets, and safety gear for young riders of any equestrian website in the world. They are the best. Great everyday promotional prices, too, with an enormous selection. You can get all of those, everything you need, in fact, from Equestrian Collections for your young riders from head to toe in their young rider department and also in their horse department. So go to equestriancollections.com at any time. They're open 24/7, and so you can always fit it into your busy schedule. And you can check out all of their products at equestriancollections.com. And I should remind you that Equestrian Collections is a participating retailer of the Horse World Gives Back campaign. Don't forget to check out that website too at horseworldgivesback.com. Well, as I said, JJ, I did manage to catch up with Isabelle Leibler, who, of course, was our gold medalist, young rider gold medalist, and she was excited to be coming on the show to bring her report as a part of our Young Reporter series.
That's just great. She had a super show, and she's a terrific up-and-coming rider, and I just can't wait to hear what she has to say.
Welcome back to the show, Isabelle, and congratulations.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me on. Wow, I mean, I'm still speechless from my first experience of young riders. going there, being just 16, my first young rider year and my first year at the championships, it was first, it was very surprising, the whole atmosphere. It's like a mini Olympics, kind of feels like, and to sort of have all the teams there, all the kids and the chefs, and it's so, even though we range from 14 to 21, it's like having hundreds of little professionals there, all wanting to support their team and all vying for success and all wanting those three, either one of the three spots on the podium. As far as my first impressions, coming to the horse park, I mean, being there in September for the WEG was just, it was an amazing experience to be there for the WEG, but to come back and to compete in the same stadium and be on the same grounds where Stefan was, bronze and in a very long time for the U.S., and it was just really inspiring. And where just the great riders all came together to show their skills and to be able to come again and ride in that same ring under the lights, especially Saturday night for the freestyles, was so inspiring. And it was really energizing, I think, for all of the riders there, because to compete in the same venue and to sort of consider yourself part of the international scene is really inspiring and makes you ride better and makes you a little bit more professional and a little bit tougher for the game and ready for a spot on the podium. And let's see. This week I saw I was a competitor myself, but since I only had one horse and I was doing after I would take care of my horse, I'd try and get out and see as much as I could of all the sports, but especially my own. I saw some amazing riding from everyone, from juniors to young riders, and of course, I have to give my hat off to my competitors in the young riders. Brandy Roenick, who rode Pretty Lady, she is from Arizona, representing Region 5, and she rode amazing this weekend. Chase Hickok, who is from Region 1, who I've known for a couple years now, who rides with Cesar, she rode amazing. Mackenzie Pooley, which was a great story on her 20-year-old horse, Yankara, from California, and this was her freestyle Saturday night when she came in bronze. That was her last ride ever on that horse, because her horse is going to be retired, and they just had a beautiful ride and a really good weekend. And it was really nice to see them finish on such a good note. And the teams like Canada finished silver in the team competition. They had a great showing. Region 5, Brandy Roenick's team, along with several other. I think Madeline Birch was on Region 5 team with her beautiful chestnut, and they had a great team day. They just pulled in a ton of consistent scores, all in the 60s. I think the top three were in the high 60s, super competitive. And my team, Region 8, was we ended up being the team bronze, which is great after because Region 8 hasn't medaled in a couple of years. So of course it was even better when Region 8 juniors. We had a great team of juniors. We had Katie Koch and Yanni Gray, Sierra Kaminsky, and Rachel Chwanek, and they all rode their hearts out, and they worked so hard for a close finish to get the bronze, and they squeezed every bit out of their team test for the juniors to get that, and they worked really hard. So that was fun to watch when our young rider class was done. Of course we all cheered each other on, and it was great. Just the team spirit this week was really great, and especially just being on, like, this is my first experience being on a team, and after so many years where you go by yourself to competitions and you have your own team for you have like your individual team, you have whether it be your groom or your trainer or your parents, but it's a real team experience that prepares you for Pan Am or Olympics, and to really just experience team spirit for the first time was amazing. And how excited we were when we found out our young rider team and our junior team got bronze, and it was like the energy was ecstatic, and it was so cool. From what I experienced, first of all, we had some great team members for Region 8. We had Maddie Bensley, Ali Potafsky, and Marley O'Neill and myself on the young rider team. And for the juniors, we had Rachel Chalanek, we had Sierra Kaminsky, Katie Koch, and Yanni Gray. And it was just amazing for all of us to be together and represent New England, and for all of us to take home a bronze medal in both divisions. And I have to thank Amy Morris for that, our team chef. She was a great influence on us the whole week. She kept us in line and kept us focused and always informed us about what the latest was, whether it was the schedule down at the ring or the situation with the horses in the warm-up or whatever information we needed. She had it for us, and that was great, and she was a big part of our success. And I saw that in the other teams as well. The other teams, they were, the team spirit, whether you were in the stadium or the barn, it was very electric, very ecstatic, especially Region 5 for the young riders who won the gold medal. And I mean, they won the team score for the young riders. I don't know for the juniors, but for the young riders, it was very close. The young rider gold score was 198. Canada, who won silver, was 197, and our Region 18 was 196. It was little points away, and the team, it was very close, and it was great competition. And I don't know the exact scores for the juniors, but I do know that some of my friends from Region 1 were the winners of the gold medal, and I have to congratulate them because they're wonderful girls, and they rode really well this weekend. And just the whole essence of team spirit throughout the weekend was great. And as someone who has never been to Young Riders before, and this was my first team experience after riding for myself as an individual for years, it was really special to ride on a team and to sort of be part of the whole team experience and cheer on your teammates. And even when the team competition is over and you're just out for individual medals, we also cheered on our teammates for the individual medals, and we were there for every ride. And we became a family by the end of the week, even though we lived in different states, because New England's big, and there are girls from New Hampshire and Rhode Island or Massachusetts, different parts of Connecticut. We're all sort of spaced out in the region, but we all came together for this event, and it was really special. And Saturday night too, the freestyles, which were taking place at night, they were supposed to be during the day, but because of the severe rain and thunder and lightning, they were held at night. You could see whichever one of the region's team members made the top 15, they were all there cheering each other on and making sure that they have as much support as they needed. And it was really special to see. And it's just, when you have that little extra support from your team members, it just makes it all special. And it's truly a wonderful experience. And finally, what I'd like to say about my Young Rider experience is just the fact that no matter what discipline all of us did, whether it was jumping or reining or endurance or dressage, anything, we all, at the closing ceremonies, we all sort of talked to each other for a while. We ventured out of our own disciplines and went to go learn new tricks from other discipline riders, and we talked to reiners or jumpers or anything about, hey, how'd you do this, or what made you win that gold medal today in the jump off, or how did you do that spin in the reining pattern? Like just for fun and to see what everyone else, to get to know everyone else's discipline, because it's only once a year when we get to venture out and have all these sports together as young riders, and to be able to learn from each other as common equestrians it's a really special event. And it was really special for me to get to watch all the disciplines and to learn from each one of them, and to be able to make new friends and establish even stronger friendships within your own discipline, because we get to become a really close team. Even though we're all competing for the same spot on the podium, we become a family, we become supportive of each other, and I think it's a wonderful program, and I really hope that the Young Rider Championships and everything that they do for us as young professionals, I hope it continues as as long as it can, because it gave me such a great experience this year, and I hope to come back next year and years after that until I age out. And I hope that someone coming up who's maybe 13 now or 15 or whatever, a year before they can jump into the competition, I hope it inspires them to come and compete too. And, just to qualify is a huge accomplishment, and to come and just have fun and to watch some disciplines and try your hardest and to compete in a venue like the Kentucky Horse Park where the WEG riders came is really special. And I hope it continues as long as I can. And thank you for having me on to share this experience.
Well, thank you, Isabelle. That was a terrific report, and I really appreciate you telling us all about it and your experiences. Fantastic, and congratulations again. I hope you'll come back. You must be, that will be a whole new challenge, won't it, to come back as the defending champion next year, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully, or we'll see how Watson is, and we'll see how the year goes, and I hope to come back as many times as I can, because I think it's a wonderful experience.
Wonderful. Well done, and good luck with the your competition schedule upcoming. And come and visit us anytime here on the Dressage Radio Show.
Thanks very much, Chris.
Well, it is so exciting. I can't believe that Isabelle's just 16 years of age. Isabelle, you're going to get tired of me saying that, but what an inspiration she is for young people after what she's done and where she's going, and obviously ambitious. She's heading off to Gladstone. You seniors are just going to have to look out.
For sure. The fact that she's only 16 is just incredible. She's so focused and sharp about her riding, and you can just tell she's a real seasoned competitor, even at such a young age. And her freestyle was just fantastic. I mean, she was sort of a shining star through the whole week, but really her freestyle, just hands down, just was really, really top work.
And as everybody knows who's been following the Adequan North America Junior Young Rider Championships, of the Dressage, at least for the Young Rider Freestyle and Junior, that really got held up, didn't it, on that Saturday evening? It should have been Saturday tea time, as we would say, but it finished up being put forward into the evening because of torrential thunderstorms that came through the Kentucky Horse Park.
We had some terrible weather, but, in some ways I was glad it was overcast and a little bit cooler for the cross-country horses that went in the morning. During the whole week, we shifted everything earlier and earlier. The ride started at 7. Everything we just tried to get out of the heat of the day. And then, of course, on Saturday, our freestyles for the juniors started at 1 o'clock, and then for the young riders, it was start at 4:30. And I think we probably had 3 more juniors left to go. And we were kind of sitting there looking at these clouds, hearing this thunder that was like shaking the stadium. And we're like, I think I need to call this show. Like, we need to stop. And one of the poor girls, I can't remember who it was, but she's like totally soaked and circling around the outside of the ring. And they finally called it. And then just the skies opened up. And it's just terrific footing there at the Kentucky Horse Park. I mean, there was not one puddle, and it rained. We had, everyone took cover in the tents, and we're trying to dig the trenches out, and it's like a river runs through it. I mean, the stabling didn't flood, but they had already prepared by digging these trenches, and the water, it was just a river running through. It was unbelievable weather. And so then we lost power. I guess the whole county lost power. So now we don't know, we can now ride because the sun came back out, but we don't have any power to be able to play the music. So it became like this crazy thing of like, is this going to happen? And but it all ended up working out. We got all the rides done before the sun went down. So it all came together at the end. But it was probably at least a 2-hour delay. So it was definitely a lot of us standing around wondering what's going to happen next.
I know, it really is pretty exciting there in the horse park, and it does, I'm afraid, get that way. You're used to it if you live here, but it is pretty dramatic for a competition, and it can hold things up.
Yeah, it was pretty spectacular.
All right, well, congratulations again to Isabelle and all of the junior and young riders. A fantastic competition for them, very exciting prospects, and we'll put links, of course, on our show notes to the full results from the Adequan North America Junior Young Rider Championships presented by Gotham North and held in the Kentucky Horse Park. Well, we've got a couple more things to do before we finish the show up, JJ, this week, but I just want to remind everybody about a brand new sponsor we have here at the Horse Radio Network, and we're delighted to welcome Horseshow.com. At Horseshow.com, you can now compete online just like you were at a regular horse show. You can get judged by the top judges and get the judges' comments. Just upload your home video and enter a class online at Horseshow.com. It's a simple and economic way for you to compete with your horse from home. It's also a great way to prepare for your next show or to track your progress during the off-season. Horseshow.com features real horse shows from multiple breeds and disciplines. They're judged by nationally accredited judges, so don't wait. Upload, enter and win at any time at Horseshow.com. Is that something you've discovered, JJ, this Horseshow.com?
I have not used it personally, but I do have to, say a big thank you to Horseshow.com because the Region 2 team for the Dressage Young Riders, where Katie Foster was my student and rides for Region 2, they actually Horseshow.com offered a $2,500 scholarship or sponsorship to the team that all had to upload their videos. And then as a team, they were judged, and whoever had the highest amount then, of course, won the scholarship. So we were really proud of the Region 2 girls. Everybody cooperated great and got their videos in, and they came home as the winners. So it was really terrific to help pay, the way for the entries and the hotel. And it was just really generous of Horseshow.com. And I just think that that's genius, everyone has access to the internet and everyone can really get a video camera. And so it's nice to be able to, without, all the stress and the expense of actually going to the horse show, you can just kind of, rate your progress and see, how am I doing? What does this look like? And these are judges. We had Natalie Lamping, who's, a terrific, judge and, high-level judge. She judges all around the Florida circuit. And so it's great to get that kind of feedback from someone with that kind of eye and experience, really basically from the comfort of your own stable. I just think it's a great idea.
And saves on gas, too.
Exactly. Saves on about everything, I tell you.
Really. A great idea. All right. Well, thanks to our new sponsors here, Horseshow.com. As I mentioned, we have a brand new segment this week from the US Dressage Federation, who are going to be coming on regularly each month and bringing us news of what's happening in their world. And we're starting off that new segment this week by welcoming Jeremy Steinberg to the show, and he's going to give us a report this week. Jeremy, welcome to the Dressage Radio Show and bringing us the first of, as I said, of our monthly updates from the US Dressage Federation. But you're fresh from the Adequan North America Junior Young Rider Championship, so you've had a pretty busy week, haven't you? Immersed in the Young Rider program.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. I just got home about 2 days ago from maybe about a week at the Young Rider Championships with them, and kind of just overseeing what's going on and how everybody's doing and the talent across the country. Yeah.
Well, explain to everyone what your role is, because you have an official role with these young people. Explain exactly what you do and what the USDF is doing with their Young Rider programs and the clinics that you're giving.
Yeah, my role right now is pretty multifaceted and very flexible, I think, as far as what's going to be happening over the next couple of years with the USDF youth coach position. USDF brought me on last year toward the end of the year, and we've been kind of talking for the last 6-8 months about how to shape and mold what we want to do with the all of the various junior, young rider, pony kind of youth programs throughout the country over the next few years, and has luckily given me a lot of leeway and room to kind of run and take things with. So that's been really good on that end. And pretty much when I started with USDF got very involved. I think it was something that USDF and USEF wanted to start to do more and more joint ventures together. And I think the youth coach and the young riders were a perfect place to start to kind of really meld the educational and developmental end that USDF does with the actual performance end that USEF is more involved in. So it's been kind of a really good, I think, it's been a great thing for the young riders and a great thing, I think, just for the relations between USDF and USEF and really promoting the two organizations working together and creating more new programs at various levels. Even though we're starting with the young riders right now, I think it's going to kind of keep leading on to more and more educational things at various levels, like the USDF symposium at the end of this year in December that USDF asked the USEF, the 4 national coaches for USEF, to actually teach and be a part of. So it's kind of off to a great start with all of that, I think.
And tell us about the clinics, too, that you're involved with.
So USDF has been, so far, just a huge, huge advocate over the last, if I had to guess, probably, they have to be pushing about 20 years now, 15, 20 years that they've been involved with young riders and doing young rider clinics. I think, the original series started maybe with Konrad Schumacher back in the early 90s. Might have even been late 80s, I think maybe early 90s. And with USDF, they approached both USEF and myself and asked if we would be interested in being involved with their young rider clinics that are already kind of a success and up and running. And USDF has then, in doing so, been a huge advocate of both myself, being involved with the young rider program that they have going, and with USEF kind of helping and stepping in to get some of those clinics taught. So we went through the process of getting myself approved for, basic USDF use as far as one of their junior young rider clinics, as far as one of the clinicians go, and has kind of plugged me into various clinics already a couple of times this year for clinics that there's, I think, 4 or 5 people that are right now available for the Junior Young Rider series of clinics. I believe Sue Blinks, George Williams, Kathy Connolly, Jan Abling, and myself. And there's been a couple so far this year that other people weren't able to teach for those weekends and asked me if I would do it. And I did one of them, and it turned out to be kind of just a great success as far as the partnership between USEF and USDF and myself and the kids. I love teaching the clinics, and I think more and more people have now applied in various regions to have me come out to do their young rider clinics through USDF. So as far as the USEF youth coach position, USDF has been a huge, huge supporter and really got the whole kind of ball, rolling and started because of their educational stance that they take, with everything that they do. It seemed like a really natural, easy fit to just plug me into those clinics and get the youth coach position up and running and started. So they've been a fantastic help and kind of springboard to get that going.
And you mentioned the symposium later in the year. Of course, we've got LILO 4 coming on next month for the USDF segment, and that, of course, is the main focus for educational purposes, the symposium each year.
Yeah, USDF is a huge, huge advocate of education, obviously, and I think a lot of people, you hear the two organizations, USDF and USEF, and not everybody really kind of understands the difference in what one's doing versus what the other one's doing. And the more I'm involved now over the last year kind of closely with the two organizations, they have two very, very different roles in what they do. And USDF's whole goal is, whether it's, adult amateur education or junior young rider education, judge training, trainer certification, they're very active and very aggressive in a good way about getting information out, getting people educated, and making educational opportunities available to everybody throughout the country at any level that they're kind of working or competing or in the business at. And the USDF convention, happens every year in December, and they run a 2 or kind of 3-day symposium along with it. And I think in years past, they've done a lot of different types of instructors. Kara Kirkland's done, pretty sure Debbie McDonald's taught it. Just tons and tons of various people have come in and taught it before. And it's one of those opportunities where, it's in this big open forum that's more or less open to the entire general public. A lot of people are already at the USDF convention for other duties and things that they are doing, with USDF for that week as far as meetings and stuff. So it's a really good venue to have a huge amount of people throughout the country in one spot and be able to kind of give them, in this case, especially with the USDF coaches, a showcase of what we're doing and what we want to see the country doing over the next couple of years with the system that we're working on and creating at USDF. So I think this year's symposium will be a great one just for the general public to kind of get involved and see how the 4 different USDF coaches, myself as the youth coach, Scott Hassler as the young horse coach, Debbie McDonald is the developing coach, and Ann Gribbins is kind of the high-performance senior coach.
Terrific. Well, we'll learn more about that as we go forwards over the next months with the new monthly segment here for the US Dressage Federation. Thank you very much for this month's version, Jeremy, and for joining us on the Dressage Radio Show.
You got it. Thanks for having me, Chris. I appreciate it.
Well, our thanks again to the US Dressage Federation. Don't forget their website is usdf.org. Go and check out everything that they do in terms of education and opportunities and registration. You can find out lots more on their website. And our weekly segment, which we dropped off the show last week because last week's episode was different to anything else you'll hear on the Dressage Radio Show. We're back to normal programming this week, and that includes our weekly segment called Words of Wisdom. Academic equitation. Its aims. The first aim of academic equitation is to restore to the mounted horse the gracefulness of attitudes and movement which he possessed when he was free, but which becomes marred by the weight and interference of the rider. To the solely utilitarian education which he has received in order to become serviceable, it adds, in the first place, in the exercises of the low school, gymnastics intended to re-establish the regularity of his gaits and the straightness of his deportment. It claims thereafter, in the words of Newcastle, to improve on nature by the subtlety of art. It then subjects the horse to the progressive lessons of an aesthetic education destined to develop the rhythm and harmony of his movements, so that they are brought to a degree of stylized perfection which will gradually transform them into the airs of the high school, though their essential characteristics are scrupulously respected. Equestrian art, thus, is akin to choreographic art, and the high school to classical dancing. This extract is taken from Academic Equitation by General de Carpentry, published by Trafalgar Square in 2001 and first published in 1949. Well, I know you've been enjoying those words of wisdom, so I'll look for some more for you, and of course that segment is on all of my 3 shows. And I want to tell you now about a brand new show that we've added to the Horse Radio Network stable, and that is the Driving Radio Show. We have a brand new co-host that I'd like to welcome to the show, and who's co-hosting with Glenn over at drivingradio.com, and that is Wendy Ying. So let's hear from Wendy and what they're going to bring to this brand new show. Well, Wendy, a big welcome to the Horse Radio Network, and congratulations on coming out of the starting gate with this brand new show, Driving. And welcome to the family, first of all.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Chris. It's been a wonderful experience. This is my first time on radio, and it's been a steep learning curve, but it's been very exciting and fun.
Well, driving, of course, is what you know so much about, and probably your first passion in life. We shouldn't, obviously, your husband aside, but...
That's right. But he also drives, so...
Yes, exactly. So tell us what we can expect with this Driving Radio Show.
Oh, well, the Driving Radio Show has a little something for everyone because, as you know, in driving, besides the competition aspect, there's lots of fun aspects of driving. There are lots of people who don't compete at all in driving. Sometimes they just hook up and go down the road. There's lots of picnic drives. There are lots of people that do parades or do demos with 40 horses or drive a stagecoach. I'm sure you know Sammy Joe. She's kind of famous on the Drive Radio Show, but she drives a donkey, a water buffalo, and a horse. not all together, but
Oh,
you know,
good.
there's
I'm glad you reassured us about that.
yeah, maybe I can talk her into doing a tandem with the water buffalo and the zebra.
That would be fun.
But there's a little bit of something for everyone, and you know, the great thing about driving is, you know, I also ride, but none of my family is horsey. So with the driving, what I found is that, you know, my non-horsey relatives and friends can come out and enjoy the horses with me without having to know anything about horses. So I think it appeals to a wide audience of people.
And, of course, you don't have to drive to enjoy driving. You can take them for a drive, whereas you couldn't probably take them for a ride if they don't ride. It is a very social event, isn't it?
It's very social, and it's a great way, like, to see a beautiful farm, or a lot of times for picnic drives, they'll have these big mansions or estates open for a day of driving, and it's a wonderful way to see something like that, or a beautiful park. There's no better way to see it than being in a carriage or on a horse. So
yeah, and of course there's so much tradition with it, so you'll probably be addressing all those issues, you know, from how to get started driving to the competitions, the events that are around the country, and also of course what you need to get started, the traditions and the traditional events. Of course there are some wonderfully traditional events, and there's so much heritage with driving,
right,
isn't there?
Yeah, and you know, our first guest on the show was David Saunders, who worked for Prince Philip, and you know, you can't get more traditional than that. He worked in the Royal Mews for years and years, and also there's a huge carriage collection in Florida, which is Gloria Austin's carriage museum, and she'll be on the show a couple times talking about her carriages. She has a beautiful collection, and also she loves the history of the carriages, so that's another aspect that we'll touch on.
And as you said, there are so many events around the country as well. So how are you going to decide which events are you going to cover the events that you attend, Wendy, or are you going to have people also calling in to tell you about the competitions around the world? Of course, with the world.
Yeah, we do cover the world, and actually, I actually am going with a friend of mine to the Pony World Championships. She's competing, and that's going to be in Slovenia at the end of September. So I'll be doing the show, calling in from there. But we are fortunate enough to have the American Driving Society as one of our sponsors, and they come on every week and they talk about what's going on in the country for shows. And she talks about it's Susie Coos-Aker, who's the director of driving, talks about the pleasure shows and the combined driving and the different events going on all over the country. So,
well, of course, Stafford's a pretty good name in driving too, isn't it? With the
oh, yes. Yes, it is. Yeah. And she also will probably be going to the Pony World Championships.
Mm-hmm. And yet another one. Goodness knows how many she's done, Susie. I mean, she's just red hot, and she's always got something, hasn't she?
Yeah. Our pony team this year is really, really strong. So it's going to be very exciting, because there's like Randy was a gold medalist. Randy Cadwell was a gold medalist with the pair, and Shelley Temple always does very well in international competition in the dressage, and Susie was a gold medalist with the Welsh Pony Bouncer, right. and then Lisa Stroud and Lori Astagiano, who is she's French, and she's American, but she lives in France, so she's used to competing in competition there. Because as you know, it's a pretty big jump when you go over there into international competition for us Americans. But I think our pony team has a really good chance this year.
Always pretty hot. Well, good luck to all of them. Now, you are co-hosting with Glenn, aren't you? So you probably have a bit of fun on that already.
Oh, we have tons of fun. You know, Glenn and I sometimes have to rein ourselves in because one of my little segments on the show is about traditional Chinese medicine. And so right now I'm covering the different elements and their personalities. And Glenn and I are both fires, meaning like we love to talk and we go on forever. Like sometimes we have to stop ourselves because we need to let the guests talk a little bit.
Well, I'm sure it will be a lot of fun, and you'll be covering every aspect of driving, carriage driving, that is, from pleasure to competition and everything in between. And we'll look forward to that. You can find you on drivingradio.com, and, of course, another podcast, as always, as all of our Horse Radio Network shows are available on iTunes. What have you got coming up on the next issue? You are a weekly, we should point out. So what's next for us?
So our next show, which comes out on Tuesday, is we talked to a guy that drives the Wells Fargo stagecoach and also drove a team of 40 horses, which is pretty exciting. He drove across country with a team of, I think, a 6. And we also have Sammy Joe, who drives the zebras. And so that's pretty exciting. I'm really excited about that show.
Well, absolutely. A lot of fun. We look forward to that. Thank you for coming on, and the very best of luck with it. We'll catch up with you on drivingradio.com.
All right. Thanks so much, Chris.
And I also want to remind you about Equestrian Legends, another new show here on the network. And Equestrian Legends is actually bi-weekly. That's going to go live on the 1st and the 15th of each month. And we're now up to episode 3, which was issued this week. That is posted at equestrianlegends.com. This episode 3, it features Kay Meredith, who's, of course, a doyen of American dressage. And I know, JJ, you will remember Kay and what she's done for the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think it's great that we're going to have such a terrific vehicle to be able to hear about these people's lives and where they've trained and what they've done and how they've contributed to the sport, because it's just so important to know the history and to know where, decisions that happen now, are all coming from the past. And it's just terrific. I just put an asterisk down by my paper to make sure I check that out, because it's just, that's our history and that's part of our sport, and she's still very much involved, and it's just great for everyone to kind of know, where our sport has come from, and to put a name and a voice to those people. I just think it's going to be really, really fun.
Well, they're certainly fun to do, and they can be found at equestrianlegends.com, or, of course, the podcast, as all of our Horse Radio Network podcasts are available as a free download on iTunes. So just go and update the weekly shows and all of the shows that you like, and we have something for everyone. Just update those podcasts. As I said, they are free. You just subscribe to them on iTunes. Well, that just about wraps it up for this week. But before we go here, and I know you probably got to get back out into the heat of the day. Have you, JJ? Have you got more teaching to do?
Yep. I have one more horse to videotape for a sales client, and one more to take for his second outing of the day for a nice hack around the farm. So not too much work yet, but still, it's never finished.
Never finished. Well, I know it's all fun. It's all good fun, and I hope you've enjoyed and you find it fun on the show. And I hope you'll come back again regularly.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. It's just been so much fun. I can talk about horses all day long. Everyone who knows me knows that I just never shut up about horses, the sport, just all of it. I just love it, and it was really fun to have a little birthday dinner with you and get to know you a little bit better. So I just really look forward to the shows, and I just think it's just, again, I keep saying this over and over again, just what an awesome thing it is to be able to bring, people's voices into their living rooms. I just think it's such a special program, and I'm terrific. I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Well, we're delighted to have you, and I know you're going to bring interesting people along too as we go forwards here, and we're going to talk about all aspects of the sport one way or the other. And if you have any questions for JJ at all, any training questions, any questions about young horse programs, I know there's, of course, the big young horse competition coming up at Lamplight, and you'll be off to that, won't you, at the end of the month, JJ?
Yep. We're going to be leaving on Monday, the 22nd of August, to make the fairly long drive to Chicago, but it's in my old stomping ground, so I'm excited to get back to the Midwest, and we'll be there all week. And yeah, it's always just so fun to see the top horses in the country, 4, 5, and 6-year-olds, and then I have a nice horse, Fabergé, that I'll be competing in the developing horse, which is a 7 to 9-year-olds. So it'll be a really fun show. And Lamplight's a beautiful facility, so that's always a great time.
Terrific. Well, you'll come back and tell us about that. And I know you were going to get Scott Hassler back on the show, too, with you to talk about young riders. So maybe we can tee that up for the beginning of September, even.
Yeah, that would be perfect. And then we can also, talk about the championships and where the sport's going. And he'll be fresh home from Ferden. I think he's leaving tonight to go over to Germany for the World Breeding Championship. So, yeah, it's kind of the young horse month. So
it is, isn't it?
We'd love to. We love to talk about it.
All right, terrific. Well, we will make sure that happens in a few weeks' time here on the Dressage Radio Show. Don't forget, you can check out our show notes at dressageradio.com, and you can also listen to us on your iPhone, your smartphone, by downloading the Hallway Feeds app. If you on our website, don't forget to check out the Audible free trial offer and to do some shopping directly there to Amazon on the website. And also, if you're on Facebook, please join us at Dressage Radio. Just search for Dressage Radio and join the community that we've built on there. We love to hear from you, as always. And I know that my friend here, JJ, is a big tweeter. You're active on Facebook. You tweet as well. And you've had some suggestions, I should say, to ideas about what we can talk about on the show from a lot of your friends and fans. There on
yeah, Facebook, absolutely. I just thought I would throw it out there on my Facebook page and got all kinds of different reactions. So that'll be fun to sort of sort through those and see what we can come up with for future episodes.
And remind everybody how they can follow you on Twitter.
Twitter is also at Jessica Jo Tate, and my Facebook page is also Jessica Jo Tate, as well as Team Tate Dressage. And my website is www.team-tatedressage.com.
Terrific. All right. And you can reach me here, as always, Chris at horseradionetwork.com. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, I'd love to hear from you. And if you have any for JJ, I'll make sure to pass those along too. Well, that about wraps it up. It's been a great show. Thanks again to my co-host, JJ Tate, and also to all my guests, Alice Collins and Wendy Ying, of course, our new driving radio co-host, and of course, Jeremy Steinberg with the USDF report, and not least of all, our new North America Junior Young Rider gold medalist, Isabelle Leibler. I will be back, of course, same time, same place next week. So until then, thank you all for listening.